Morning. Something already present in this room is the only teacher you will meet today. Not these words, not this voice. Something that can only be discerned between the lines, in the pause, in the space after the thought ends. The physical ear can never hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter truth. The ear catches syllables. Truth arrives like a breath that is not yours. If you are here to listen harder, you will leave tired. If you are here to become still, you will not leave at all. You will find you are already where you were seeking to go. Now then, before we speak of anything, we must agree. We are not dealing with information. We are not adding to a storehouse. We are not searching for better words. We are opening a place within, and that is all. One split second of silence. Do not miss this. One split second in which the mind stops arranging, comparing, judging. And in that unguarded instant, truth rushes in of itself. No effort can pull it. No strain can purchase it. The moment of receptivity is grace's only door. Now, hear this sentence that cannot be heard by ears. My kingdom is not of this world. Not of it. Not a better world. Not a fixed world. Not even a spiritualized human scene. If you came to make this world safe, prosperous, or holy through spiritual words, you will discover disappointment. My kingdom is not an improved this world. It is another order of being entirely. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth, which is to say, they must lift themselves in consciousness out of the market of time and exchange and into the sanctuary where cause and effect do not govern. Accept this. If you cannot accept it, be honest, but do not pretend to hear it with the ear. The ear will agree. The heart must relinquish. Now then, we are setting ourselves for a day. Not a day on the calendar, a day in consciousness. A point, literal, definite, in which something inside ceases its management, and another government takes the reins. You will know the feel of it. The strain drops. The breath deepens by itself. The sense of I must loosens, and something that is not the personal I moves, supplies, directs without your prompting. Up to that point, you are a student of words. After that point, you live under grace. Let us be plain. Nobody in this room will enter by efforting at the door. Nobody. The door opens when you stop rattling it. So, for now, do not try to hear. Be still and discern. Now. And now then, let the unheard sentence announce itself where thought ends. Now then, if God were in the human scene would not behave as it does. Look out the window of your life. The rain falls on your house and the house next door without consulting moral accounts. Storms do not pause for decency. They do not punish corruption by skipping bedrooms. Promotions arrive at the desks of the unkind as easily as to the faithful. Children of prayer are not spared the cough that visits children of no prayer. Do you see? If God were a presence in the human picture, the picture would show it. But it does not. Therefore, accept what the ear does not want to hear. There is no God in the human scene. Now. That is not condemnation. That is freedom. It ends a futile search in the market of cause and effect. Because what have we been doing? Managing health, managing supply, managing relationships, managing reputation, managing tomorrow. Making prayer a lever for better outcomes, bowing at the altar of planning and calling it wisdom. This is the hidden idol, personal responsibility as savior. Not integrity, not fidelity, not doing today's honest work. Those are natural. I speak of the inner worship of law. If I arrange this, that will happen. If I confess this, God will respond with that. Cause, effect, the ledger of merit. The human scene loves ledgers. Grace has none. You cannot pray a human picture into holiness. You can polish it. You can improve it for an hour. But if the root remains in this world, it remains under law, under time, under change. Sentimental religion tries to move furniture in a burning house and calls the new layout salvation. My kingdom is not an improved arrangement of appearances. My peace is not the calm that comes after the numbers add up. My peace is not as the world giveth. Accept this, or do not. But do not pretend that pleading for a more comfortable dream is entering the kingdom. Now then, the proof that you are still worshiping the picture is the strain, the tightness under the ribs, the constant hum of what if, how will, I must. That is not guidance, that is management. Let me be as plain as I know how to be. Nobody in this room is helped by complaint. Nobody. Nobody. The complaint is itself the confession. I am the governor here. I am the source. I am alone with this. And in that confession, you bar grace. When fear rises, it is the same confession in another tone. I will have to do this without God. You may dress it in piety. You may quote beautiful lines. But fear testifies to the government you trust. The personal I under law. Do not report your history to me to excuse it. Nobody cares about the long description of how hard you have had it. Keep quiet and notice the mechanism. The very energy spent in arranging, defending, and anticipating is the evidence. You are trying to find God where God does not appear, inside the flux of appearances. You are attempting to extract permanence from change, justice from a realm that knows only exchange, life from time. It cannot be done. Now, this is diagnosis, not despair. The moment you see that exhaustion is not the price of love, but the tax of idolatry, you stop feeding the idol. You stop asking the picture to be your savior. You refuse the jurisdiction of law in your heart, even as you meet the day in its forms. And in that refusal, something loosens. Not later. Even here, while the picture remains what it is, you begin to feel the absence of burden where the personal manager stood. That absence is the first hint that another government exists. Not in the scene, in you, where grace waits, unconsulted, to govern. Now then, if something has loosened, let it loosen all the way. Let us place the knife where the knot is. Time. Not sin, not lack, not other people. Time. The mechanism by which consciousness ejects itself from grace. The instant you try to live outside this instant, you have left the sanctuary and walked into the market of cause and effect. My kingdom is not of this world, and this world is time. The kingdom is now. Test it. Not with belief. Test it with being. Try to live a minute from now. You cannot. A minute from now is a vacuum with numbers around it. Try to live an hour ago. You cannot. An hour ago is a photograph with your name on it. It has no breath. Only this instant holds life. Only now contains awareness, hearing, seeing, the capacity to discern. Therefore, there is no kingdom of heaven yesterday, and there is no kingdom of heaven tomorrow. The kingdom is a state of grace experienced now or not at all. When you run ahead in thought, what will I do when? How will I pay? Where will it come from? You have already confessed, there will be no God there. I must prepare to live godless. That is what planning becomes when it is baptized in fear. Do not dress that confession in the suit of prudence and call it wisdom. Wisdom is present silence that reveals the step at hand. Fear is a projected lack parading as responsibility. You manufacture a barren tomorrow and then congratulate yourself for stockpiling against the drought you invented. Nobody in this room needs that. Nobody. Now, see how natural life acts without time. The rose does not put its fragrance in layaway for Thursday. Whenever the rose blooms, it is now. The sap does not budget for July. Yielding occurs only in the immediate. Spiritual reality is not different. Grace does not sit in a future room waiting for you to arrive in better shape. Grace is the presence of God as this instant. Anticipation is a fence. Now is the open gate. Enter or pace the fence. Those are the only choices. This is not license to be careless. This is the end of being terrified. You may book a seat on a train. That is an event. But when you move the heart into tomorrow's imaginations, you have vacated the car you are riding. You have left the conductor, grace, and taken the brake in your own hand. How do you know? Tightness, whirring mind, stacked scenarios. Stop. Return. One split second of silence resets jurisdiction. The mind ceases its staging, and what is needed for this moment is revealed and fulfilled within this moment. Never later. Always now. Do not attempt to rehabilitate time. Abandon it. The minute you live tomorrow, you exit the kingdom. The instant you return to now, you are under grace. This is not poetry. It is rule. My peace is I am. Not I was. Not I will be. I am. Remain there. Remain now. And the government of your supply, direction, and peace will not be managed. It will be present. Now then, we have said the trap is time. Let us name the sound that tells you you have stepped into it. Fear. Not a mood, not a storm of nerves to be calmed with phrases. Fear is a confession signed in your own hand. I can do this without God. I must. I will. The throb in the chest, the narrowing of breath, the rushing of thought. It is not the event outside that creates it. It is the inner decree, I will govern this. And the instant you assume that seat, you are under law. Do not flatter fear. Do not make a virtue of it. The world has taught you to honor anxiety as love, as diligence, as responsibility. I worry because I care. No, you worry because you have vacated the kingdom and are attempting to secure life in time. Caring is presence. Responsibility is fidelity to now. Anxiety is an altar built to a future that does not exist, and the sacrifice laid upon it is your peace. Nobody in this room needs to worship at that altar. Nobody. You may be sincere. You may be studious. You may fill pages with statements of truth. You may fast, tithe, serve. And still, if underneath there is the clenched hand of personal will aiming at an outcome, you are not under grace. you are engineering an effect. You can be reciting holiest lines and at the same time whispering with your breath, "Please, let this work." That whisper is the tell. Personal sense is arranging, and personal sense brings its own weather. Fear. Accept this, or do not. But do not paint fear in piety and call it discernment. There is no blended arrangement, grace or law, spirit or personal will, government or self-management. One chair, one occupant. If I insist upon knowing what tomorrow must look like, I have chosen law, and I must accept its instruments, planning, worry, defense. If I release the picture and abide in this instant, I am under grace, and grace has no instruments at all. It is presence being itself. Do you see the simplicity? Ask yourself in the moment of tightness, who is on the throne? If the answer is, I am, that is the source of the fear. Now, what shall we do when fear appears? Not fight it, not argue with it. Expose it. Let it say its line and hear it for what it is. I am trying to do this without God. Then stop. One split second of silence. Not a statement, not a counter-affirmation. Silence. In that pause, you withdraw recognition from time. Jurisdiction returns to now. You do not push the thought away. You stop feeding it with a future. Even while the outer picture remains unchanged for the moment, you are no longer in its court. The sentence has been vacated because the judge has changed. Do not bargain with fear. Do not say, I will trust if. That is the personal I with a mask on. Do not trace outcomes. Do not forecast rescue. Simply refuse to manage. Return. Breathe once. Listen. Not to the mind, that is the noisiest beggar in the market, but to the presence that needs no words. If a step is to be taken, it is revealed as this moment's integrity, not as a campaign. If nothing is to be done, nothing is done. The restlessness itself dissolves, not by conquest, but by loss of a governor. This is the correction. Fear is not a problem to solve. It is evidence of usurped government. Lay down the usurpation. Stop worshiping your anxiety as responsibility. Let the sentence reverse itself. I cannot do this without God. And then go one more. There is no I apart from God. My peace is I am. Not I was, not I will be. I am. Stay there, now. And fear has no altar on which to burn. Now then, up to a point, we are students. Do not despise it. Reading, listening, copying out sentences, practicing statements of truth, sitting in rooms like this and leaning forward with the physical ear. Up to a point, this is necessary. The mind must be reschooled out of its idolatries. The heart must be thawed from its bargains with time. We learn a new vocabulary only to discover that vocabulary cannot deliver the thing. We gather principles as a musician gathers scales, not because scales are music, but because the hand must be readied to disappear. Accept this. Studenthood is honest work, but it is not the kingdom. At some point, definite, datable, located in your personal sense of time and space, something not learned occurs. I cannot promise the hour. I can promise it is an hour. It may happen at 10 o'clock in the morning while you wash a cup, at midnight while the last plan collapses, at 3 a.m. when the room has no witness but your own breath. A split second opens in which the manager you have been pretending to be lays down his tools, not by resolve, but by exhaustion of premise. And in that unguarded instant, truth is not stated. It lives. The government shifts. You feel it. The string of I must, I must, I must breaks. Breath arrives by itself. You realize with a clarity that neither argument nor quotation could provide. I am not responsible for life. Life is responsible for me. Do not hear perfectionism in this. It is not the day you stop making human mistakes, it is the day you stop being one. The picture may still have edges. There may be bills. There may be symptoms. There may be people who behave like people. But identity has been relocated from the personal I under law to the presence that is its own law. You do not sit in judgment over outcomes. You do not count the Fridays. You do not bless grace for doing what you told it to do. You sit still inside an order that does not consult your calendar, and you discover that supply, direction, safety appear as principle, not as favors won. Automatic? Yes, but only because the governor has changed. Students of truth can quote you the sentence and still tremble over tomorrow. Those under grace cannot always quote it, and they do not tremble. Students monitor results. Those under grace abide in cause that is not in time. Students take thought to add cubits. Those under grace have no cubits to add, because stature is not measured in that realm. Students pray toward effects. Those under grace pray by silence and find the earth melts of itself. Same room, same book, different government. You will know the day because relaxation is not a mood. It is a fact. The spine of personal responsibility snaps without pain. You stop bargaining with God because there is no longer a two to bargain. You stop guarding your life because it is not in your keeping. From that day, fear can still knock, but it cannot take the chair. Worry may pace the hallway, but it cannot enter the sanctuary. Not by your vigilance, by the impossibility of two governments occupying the same throne. How then do you come to that day? Not by straining at it, not by arranging the stage, not by perfecting phrases. You come by being where grace is, now, and refusing to step outside to live in a minute that does not exist. Stay faithful to the silence that interrupts your management. Let the tools fall when they fall. One split second will be the one, and when it is, do not reach to take the reins back in gratitude. Remain yielded. My kingdom is not of this world. The day you know that in your bones rather than on your lips is the day you are no longer a student of truth. You are under grace. Now then, let us speak of the day itself. The day you stop trying. Not laziness, not neglect, not resignation, none of those. Stopping trying is not dropping integrity. It is dropping the savior role. It is the cessation of personal outlining, the quiet refusal to arrange tomorrow in advance, the end of propping up a picture by mental pushing. You do your honest work, you answer the phone, you pay the bill in your hand, but you do not make a god of cause and effect, and you do not call your private blueprints guidance. You relinquish the throne and with it the strain. That is what I mean. How will you know it is this day? There is a split second when thought stops, not from effort, not from a technique, but as if a sound in the room ceased. Silence. In that bare instant, something rushes, but not emotion, not a high, not a swell. A settled certainty comes that needs no argument. Gravity recognized, not fireworks displayed. It is not, "I think this will work." It is not, "I feel better." It is an unowned knowing. I am not the governor, and nothing in God's universe requires my management to be itself. Breath moves of itself. Shoulders drop without being told. The mind makes no offer. And the earth, by which I mean the whole picture of cause and effect you were serving, melts from command. Why does it happen at once? Because grace does not travel. It is. It does not arrive after enough statements, enough tears, enough years. It was present as this now, obscured only by the noise of personal effort. Your trying was the static that made you believe the station was not broadcasting. The instant the dial is not being jerked by fear, the music that always was becomes audible. Do not flatter your strain by calling it devotion. It is interference. The absence of pushing is the revelation of presence. Not later. Now. Test it, here. Notice the tiny space at the end of this sentence, that speck where the mind has not yet reached for the next thing. Do not grab it. Let it be. There, a doorway so small the proud will not bow to enter. That is the temple. Not a trance, not a posture, not a recited line. The cessation of reach. If you must do a thing in this moment, it will appear within this moment without a project attached to it. If nothing is given, let nothing be done. The silence itself is activity in another realm. Do not call this carelessness. The hands still steer the wheel. The feet still walk to the store. Letters are mailed. Dishes are rinsed. But the inner manager is not drawing arrows from task to imagined outcome. No bargains, no bribes, no, "if I do this, then God will do that." Fidelity remains, outlining ends. You discover that obedience to grace is simply being fully where you are, without moving into the vacuum called tomorrow. My kingdom is not of this world. So you stop importing the world's machinery to run the kingdom. Now, understand the severity and the mercy. If you postpone this day, it is because the personal I prefers its office and its worry. Nobody is delaying you. Nobody. Not karma, not history, not other people. Only the taste for management. Drop it for one split second, and you are through. Pick it up, and you are back in harness. That is all. The gate swings on that hair's breadth. The minute you live tomorrow, you exit the kingdom. The instant you refrain, you are in. Grace does not come after you succeed at trying. It is revealed the instant trying stops. So we practice stopping, not as effort, but as relinquishment. 100 times today, in small ways, let the grasp loosen for a breath. Between thoughts, between words, in the space after you reach for your plan, pause. Refuse to move the hand of the clock. Let the unsaid sentence say itself within, and you will find that what needed to be supplied is present. What needed to be done is obvious. And what needed no doing has lost its claim. Effort ends not in defeat, but in dethronement. Government returns to where it belongs. Now then, when the throne is no longer occupied by the personal I, government proceeds of itself. Do not make a mystery of this. Translate it. Supply, direction, relationships, timing, protection. The categories you use to whip with thought come under principle and no longer require strain. Not magic, not passivity. Automatic. Automatic means spirit doing what spirit is without your improvement. The sun does not take thought to rise. Principle does not labor to remain principle. When you stop interfering, life carries you the way buoyancy carries a swimmer who stops thrashing. Supply first. Under law, you pushed. Budgets braided with fear, prayers as invoices, favors traded with heaven. Under grace, supply is not wages for effort, but evidence of being. Integrity is done because it is integrity, not because of a payoff. You do the task at hand thoroughly and cleanly. You do not tack tomorrow's demand onto today's obedience. And supply appears, not as prize money, but as the outflow of order. The right check, the needed client, the unplanned gift, or just as profoundly, the removal of an invented need. It is inevitable, because principle cannot contradict itself. 2 and 2 do not become 4 because you sweat over the figures. They are 4 because mathematics is what it is. Grace is like that. Direction. You used to map 10 steps for fear of missing one. Under grace, a single step becomes luminous in the now. Take that step, and the next appears within it, not beside it. If nothing is shown, nothing is done. Do you see the mercy? Confusion was not a lack of options. It was the surplus of a manager who would not sit down. Silence reduces the field to the one thing the moment is for, and alignment replaces ambition. Music does not yield to clenched fingers. You do not press harder to get melody. You tune. Then your lightest touch becomes inevitable harmony. Direction is like that. Timing. Under law, you were forever early or late, terrified of missing your good. Under grace, you cannot be late to yourself. Appointments keep you. Trains that leave without you reveal the path you could not have reasoned. Doors close that were never yours. Doors open you did not know existed. Automatic does not mean careless. It means synchronized with reality. Whenever the rose blooms, it is now. Whenever your event is true, it presents itself as now. No bargaining, no pleading, just the rhythm of a kingdom that has never once consulted your calendar. Protection. You used to defend life with watchfulness that stole your sleep. Under grace, safety is not the result of your perimeter. It is the atmosphere of being carried. You still fasten the latch. You still look both ways. But the fear that once patrolled your blood is absent. My peace is not the quiet that follows your precautions. It is the presence that renders precautions simple acts rather than sacraments. Accidents? Dangers? The human picture will offer its stories. You remain, and because you remain, in spirit, not in time. What needs to pass by passes by. What needs to be faced is faced. And through it all you discover you are not the sentinel. You are the sanctuary. Relationships. Under law, you sculpted people with hints and heat. Under grace, you do not manage a single soul. You meet what stands before you without dragging yesterday into the room or tying tomorrow around their neck. Words appear or silence appears. Correction or patience appears. Departure or embrace appears, but without the ache of authorship. You are not using love to get a result. Love is using you to be itself. And when love governs, offense cannot find much to hold on to. And reconciliation is not a project. Sometimes it is a nod, sometimes a clean separation, always a release from the clutch of my will. Do not bargain for this government. You do not earn principle. You do not coax mathematics to be reliable by promise or penance. You do not bribe harmony to stay in tune. You consent by surrender. You get out of the way. That is all. The chair has room for one. When the personal I vacates, automatic government is not granted. It is revealed. Life is carried by principle rather than pushed by personal strain. Now, remain there. Now then, if there is government without strain, there must be a mechanism not of effort, but of being. Hear this if you can hear it where hearing is. The physical ear cannot hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter it. Words are carriers of air. The truth is not in the sound. The truth is discerned between the lines, in the interval where sound ceases. Therefore, no amount of argument, no parade of affirmations, not even beautiful statements repeated hourly, can produce realization. They may prepare, they cannot deliver. The delivery happens where no word reaches. So we learn a practice that is not a technique, but a refusal to argue. Watch thought. Do not polish it. Do not improve its theology. Let it run until it notices that you are not following and grows quiet of itself. There is a split second, bare, almost missed, in which the stream does not carry you. Do not grab it. Do not say, "There it is." Do not praise it. Do not put it in a journal. Let it be. A hair's breadth of silence is the doorway on which the kingdom hangs. In that speck, the manager is absent, and grace, which needed no invitation, is apparent. Discernment is what occurs there. Not analysis. Not, what does this teaching mean? Discernment is the feel of Spirit's impulse under and before the word. Unmistakable. Not emotional, not dramatic. Elemental. It says nothing with syllables, and yet it renders the next moment self-evident. You know without forecasting. The step arises within the step. The yes is simply yes, and the no is simply no, without a courtroom convened to justify it. That is government as presence, not as plan. Now then, expect the mind to protest. It is not being renovated, it is losing its throne. It will offer you reasons. Think this through. It will offer you timelines, by Friday or else. It will offer you threats. If you do not manage, you will be without. Every one of those offers is an invitation back into time. Decline by not answering. Do not argue with the mind. Argument is its oxygen. See the bait, feel the tug, and in that very noticing, let the line go slack. Return to the split second. One breathless pause and the jurisdiction changes. My kingdom is not of this world. Not even a perfect version of this world. Therefore, it is not of its clocks, its reasons, or its alarms. Practice this where life meets you. The phone rings. Before the reach, one pause. A bill appears. Before the story, one pause. A sharp word lands. Before defense, one pause. You are not performing spirituality. You are withholding consent from mental governance. In that withheld consent, discernment appears as quiet, immediate rightness. You do the thing at hand because it is the thing at hand. You do not assemble a campaign. The earth melts, not by force, but because the heat of argument has been removed. Do not seek a sign. Do not listen for music. Listen for the gap in which there is no listener. The physical ear will bring you my words. The inner ear, if you refuse to grab, will bring you what my words cannot carry. That is the mechanism. Not a thought made truer by effort, but truth revealed when thinking ceases to govern. Now, remain there. And when the mind returns with schedules and threats, smile without speech and step again into the unspectacular temple of silence. In that temple, supply, direction, and peace are not promised. They are. Now then, stabilization is not withdrawal. You remain where life has planted you, paying the bill that is in your hand, going to work, raising the child, washing the dishes. You still answer the phone. You still sign your name. But the government of your being is not in the pen or the paycheck. You do not take your identity or your supply from the human scene. My kingdom is not of this world. Not even an improved this world. Therefore, you refuse to let the world certify who you are or whether you are kept. Mark the boundary. You do not consult appearances to decide if grace is present. Headlines, balances, lab reports, the tone in someone's voice, these are pictures within a realm that is not your source. Do not argue with them. Do not worship them. See them, yes. Interpret them, no. When the picture shouts, you do not shout back. You pause. One split second in which you refuse to take instruction from time and jurisdiction returns to now. The fact of spirit does not shift because an effect changes costume. Cause is not in that theater, so you will not climb on the stage to win an argument with a prop. Do not mistake this for indifference. In this world, you still do the clean human thing. You wipe the child's face. You call the plumber. You show up for the meeting on time with your work prepared. But there is no fear in the hand, no bargain in the heart, no tomorrow strapped to today. You do not add weight to the moment by tying it to outcomes. Obedience to now is the whole instruction. And there is no superiority in it. No withdrawal. Refuse the old realm without contempt. You walk through the marketplace as through weather, coat on, umbrella if needed, but you do not hate the rain, and you do not pretend the rain is your life. Here is a common temptation: to preach at others when you taste quiet. Resist it. You cannot depend on anyone in this room for your good. They cannot depend on you for theirs. Nobody. Nobody. Your work is inward consent, not outward control. Do not manage a spouse into peace or a colleague into truth. Do not throw sentences at the fearful. Remain. Let the atmosphere of non-fear speak where words would create debate. If a word is required, it will be given in the moment, stripped of strategy, clean as a yes or a no. If silence is required, be silent. Government is not in the lecture. It is in the presence. Now watch how stabilization feels in the ordinary. In traffic, you are not the hurry. In the hospital waiting room, you are not the rumor of outcomes. In the tax office, you are not your figures. Calm does not arrive after the problem is solved. Calm is the refusal to live a minute from now. You do not participate in blame, the past's courtroom. You do not participate in dread, the future's theater. You stand where grace is and let the world pass by without drafting you into its panic. And remember the channels. Your employer is not your source. Your client, your follower count, your market, channels only. If one closes, you do not bleed identity. You change coats in the same weatherless air. Supply is presence being itself. Direction is revealed as now. Safety is the atmosphere of being carried, not the product of your patrol. My kingdom is not of this world, and you are of that kingdom while your feet move in this one. So we practice a simple rule. Do the next honest human thing. Refuse the world as authority. Pause before consenting to its fear, its blame, its projection. Then move without drama. The personal I does not preside. Grace does. Now. Remain there. Now then, there is a barrier that keeps the full light from entering. And it is not ignorance of phrases. It is condemnation. Sectarianism, prejudice, the subtle habit of sorting life into worthy and unworthy. This seals the ear and dims the inner sight. Do you see? You can be faithful to the pause. You can refuse tomorrow. And yet, if you keep a private blacklist, persons, creeds, classes, conditions, you have reinstalled a personal governor called judgment. And judgment is time. Judgment is law. Judgment is the old realm hiding under a robe of righteousness. Consider that old story we cannot hear with the physical ear. The sheet descending before Peter, crammed with what his training called unclean. The command was not about diet. It was about inner government. Call nothing filthy that God has made. Not the Samaritan, not the Roman, not the broken body, not the debtor, not the sinner you believe you were yesterday. The label is the veil. The minute you stick it on, you say to the Christ, "Stand back. I will decide who qualifies." And in that instant, light is proportioned to your sect. Partial light for partial love. Thin grace for a narrow heart. Now then, the Christ is not a tribal possession. My kingdom is not of this world, not the Jewish world, not the Christian world, not the secular world, not the enlightened world. Spirit is impartial because spirit is itself. It reigns on the just and on the unjust, not as reward or rebuke, but as being. Whenever you claim a private fence around good, our people, our doctrine, our taste, you move into the marketplace and charge admission for what was given as heir. There is no purchase in this kingdom. There is only recognition. I am. Not I am if. Not I am for some. I am. How does this complete the end of trying? The last effort is the effort to judge. Sorting is the mind's final project. It keeps the throne by deciding who is in and who is out, what is spiritual and what is secular, who deserves and who does not. Drop that, and the last wire is cut. A split second without the verdict, and the river flows unobstructed. Compassion is not a sentiment you offer. It is what remains when you do not manage worthiness. Then no is clean when it is no. Yes is clean when it is yes. Boundaries stand without barbed wire. Corrections arise without heat. Inclusion is not permissiveness. It is the absence of private law. Test this where you live. The moment the face appears before you, the neighbor, the rival, the one whose politics offend you, the one whose need embarrasses you, the one whose failure looks like yours, notice the reflex to label. Do not polish it. Do not sanctify it. Stop. One hair's breadth of silence where you refuse to name them outside of God, and the government changes. Words may be given. Silence may be given. Help may be given. Distance may be given. But fear is not the author, and superiority is not the motive. Grace governs where consciousness stops dividing life. Nothing filthy, nobody outside, not even the self you think you are. Now, remain there and let the light be whole. Now then, Here is the rule, and it is the only rule that belongs to this kingdom. Give up yesterday. Give up tomorrow. Take no thought for tomorrow, none whatsoever. And return. Not in 10 minutes, not when the room is quiet. Now. This is the straight and narrow, not as a metaphor, but as jurisdiction. The minute you deviate into past or future, you exit. The instant you refuse that deviation, you are home. My kingdom is not of this world. Therefore, it is not of your clocks, your regrets, or your projections. Do not argue. Comply. Let this sequence be your way until it is no longer a way, but your nature. Notice the attempt to manage. Catch the hand reaching into a minute that does not exist. Recognize it as time, which is fear in costume. Stop the thought, not by wrestling, not by debating it. Simply withdraw consent. Allow the split second of silence to open before the next thought claims you. Rest there. Not thinking, not affirming, not projecting. Rest in government. Do you hear the simplicity? 5 small obediences, and the throne is no longer occupied by a phantom. You will say, it comes back. Of course it comes back. The mind is a good employee, unwilling to accept its retirement. Keep quiet and go ahead and struggle if you must. Just do not worship the struggle as progress. Nobody is impressed by your difficulty. Nobody. Least of all grace, which is not negotiated by sweat. Do your struggling in silence and keep the rule. Notice. Recognize. Stop. Allow. Rest. 100 times a day if that is what it takes. Not to make something happen, but to cease making it unhappen. Now. There is no virtue in remembering this tomorrow. Tomorrow is the door you are forbidden to use. If you must plan in this world, plan as the honest human thing you do at the appointed now. Then put the plan down and do not carry it one step into the vacuum ahead. Take no thought means exactly what it says, none whatsoever. The rose does not set an alarm for its bloom. Whenever it blooms, it is now. Be as the rose. Be as principle, being what it is without lecture, without anxiety, without theater. The relief you keep postponing is not behind a future curtain. It is under your hand this instant. The day you stop trying is not a date. It is the absence of a date. Consent, and it is this day. Refuse, and it is never. This is not harsh. It is mercy made exact. Government is present. Supply, direction, and peace are not prizes. They are the atmosphere into which you step when you relinquish your calendar and your crown. Now. Now then. Now. Return. Remain. Do the next clean human thing and add nothing to it. And if you find you have left, leave the leaving and be here. The way is I am. The law is now.